Yes, man!
It's so much fun.
This is what happens.
Pedal is so much fun.
We'll tell you what the pedal is shortly. You'll have to wait and see. Look, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Justin Derrico to the Andertons TV studios.
Hello.
I'm so pleased you're in.
Me too, man. I know we've talked in the past trying to get this to happen years.
Yes.
And are just, paths have not aligned schedule-wise, and I'm really happy to be here.
You're doing a huge Pink gig this weekend in Hyde Park.
Yep.
So I'm coming to that, but I thought, seeing as it's not too far away, it would be crazy not to try and get you into the studio. So I'm so pleased your schedule allowed it. I've said this little story to you, but for the guys watching, about 10 or 11 years ago, my wife said, you got to come and see a Pink show. She'd been to a couple before. This was in, this would have been O2 in 2010, I think.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, look, I like Pink as much as the next guy.
Sure.
But it wasn't like, for me it wasn't, it wouldn't have been top of my list of people to see. But so anyway, so we go along, it's a big show, and stage, left as I'm kind of looking at it, is this kind of like lion-maned rock god, Les Paul, the whole, probably the singlet as well.
Yeah.
And like every other song, you're just ripping this massive guitar solos out.
She's just awesome. Like, it's, she lets us be ourselves, and she welcomes, like, just coming and kicking ass, because she kicks ass.
Well,
she's a badass.
Yeah,
so
like
she's comfortable with that.
15 minutes into this gig, I'm enjoying it more than my wife's enjoying it. and then, of course, you throw in all of the show that Pink puts on, and it's a big production.
It is, yeah. It's massive.
And I'm won over. And the next thing I'm doing is I'm kind of, I'm on, who is the guitar player for Pink? It's just like that. And that was kind of, I was just...
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I think you got a little glimpse at the beginning of this video of kind of the level that you're at. So look, we always love to go back to, formative years and talk about stuff. So I know from our conversation in the car that you're a Southern boy.
Yep.
So tell us where you grew up and just what those formative guitar years were like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Crozet, Virginia, which is just outside of Charlottesville, and I guess, it's known for the University of Virginia, UVA, and the Dave Matthews Band. But yeah, so I grew up on a farm, and nobody in my family plays music. Well, my uncle, my mom's brother, he plays a little bit, But I was hanging out with a bunch of friends when I was in middle school, and we all just, they were all playing guitar, and I was like, I want to do that as well, and then they just started showing me, took me under their wing, and I fell in love with it, and it was just fucking, like right when I found it, I was like, this is it for me,
Was it a traditional sort of music upbringing for someone from that neck of the woods? I mean, are we talking about, classic 70s rock, and bluegrass and all that kind of mix?
So we were all like a bunch of hippie kids, right? Or at least we thought we were. And yeah, we were like way into like Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd and you know, Bob Dylan and like all the 60s and 70s classic rock stuff. We were way into that. But we were also exposed to amazing bluegrass. You know, just regionally where we were, there's a lot of bluegrass pickers. And a lot of those guys that were you know, taught me how to play when I was, you know, when I was just starting out. That's all they play now is just straight up bluegrass, and they are burning. My buddy Fred and Ben and Zeke, like they're just and Brandon, they got a bluegrass band, and they're just killer players. And so that got me turned on the bluegrass, and you know I would always jam with them, but you know I'm no bluegrass player. That's for sure. Let's get one thing straight.
Level,
I've got some bluegrass licks here and there. You know, and some country shit, but that's a whole nother story. That's a lifelong journey. You know, that traditional stuff. I'm just a stupid rock guy.
Well, they play at 500 miles an hour with no distortion.
Well,
it's like that's tough.
It's beautiful and melodic too. It's not just bullshit, you know. But it's so I was exposed to that stuff, and. You know, and there was this music store that I used to go to called Charlottesville Music, which doesn't exist anymore. But at the time when I grew up, there were a lot of great musicians. Even the guy, Billy Brockman, the guy who owned the shop, he was an awesome guitar player. And Rob and Wally and my friend Brian Craddock, he plays guitar for Chris Daltrey now. Chris Daltrey, actually, we all grew up in the same town.
Oh, cool.
And so it was a really thriving music scene, and my exposure to music was hanging out in that shop. And like, you know, I'd be like, "Hey man, what is that? What are you doing there?" And he'd be like, "Oh, it's just like whatever, like a blues lick or something." And so I just was like a sponge and taking it all in. And then I started taking lessons with the teacher there, Aaron Evans, and he was just an amazing teacher, and he really gave me like a good foundation of like music theory. And you know I remember the first lessons is like, well, do you know your major scales? I was like, yeah man, I know my major scales.
Oh, he's that like, major scale.
He's like, that's not a major scale. And but then he took me there, and you know, and taught me diatonic harmony and stuff. We started getting into jazz a little bit, and he is a beautiful player. Yeah, it was really, really fortunate that I found those people. You know,
that's pretty lucky, because I think most people it feels like they have to go searching for that kind of education at a sort of like a post-college kind of level. But did you do that, or were you just cutting your teeth kind of, you know, gigging and on the road by then?
Well, I was cutting my teeth gigging, like when I started, you know, with my buddies, and you know, I was like, I don't know, 15 or so, and we instantly started a band, right? And I could barely even play, right? But we started a band, and you know, we got pretty somewhat decent. And then that whole band fell apart, and I started playing with another band, and then we were playing bars and stuff. And so that's really like my education was really that. Yeah. But then I went on to music school. I went to Shenandoah University for I don't know, about a year or so, and I started playing with this band. And we had the best name in the world. It was Majacamo, and people would call us. They'd never get it right. They call us Magic Homo, which now I think about it, is actually a better freaking name.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But we were a really good band. Like really, really, like we were all young, but everybody was really good players. And we did a lot of gigs. We did fraternities, and we were just doing the whole college circuit thing. And that was an education, but also being in Shenandoah was really great too. I learned a lot of stuff, a lot of theory, and it was really cool. And then I kind of got bored of it. Not bored of it. I kind of like, I was a music major, and I pretty much done all my music credits in the first year. So I was like, well, now what? I don't want to do English and math and all that stuff. And so I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to go out to LA, and I'll go to MI. And so I went to MI, and I was there for about 6 months, and I learned so much about the guitar. Mm-hmm. You know, by hanging out with all these awesome players.
Who was there at the time? Because anyone that goes to MI has always got a story about,
Well, Scott Henderson was there.
Okay.
Alan Hines. Jean-Marc Belcadie, who I still take lessons from when I have time. Because he's a monster guitar player. He is one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. And he's also one of the most craziest people I've ever met in my life. But that dude is insane.
I know people say you never stop learning, but
Never.
seriously though, when you get to your level of playing guitar, what are you actually asking a teacher to teach you?
You know what? Like for me, he'll come in with some cool concepts. Whatever. He'll be like, he's French. Buddy, I have something good for you now. And he'll come up with a cool concept tailored to me, really. But
Right.
for me, it's like sort of inspiration, right? To kind of keep, maybe some shit just kind of gets stale. And maybe it's a new take on another way to look at something, a different approach or something like that. Or just even like chord voicings or just different concepts and stuff. But it gets you out of the rut and it keeps you moving forward,
Yeah.
And like I find like a lot of times, like if I get into that situation, I don't have time to hook up with Jean-Marc or whatever, I'll transcribe some stuff, I'll listen to stuff, and that kind of throws you down that path as well.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have somebody be like, or even he's great for this. He'll be like, "Oh, buddy, I heard you doing this. You suck at that. We're going to fix that." And it's true. And we fix it. And it's like, and it's cool, man. I love it.
I think it's brilliant outlook, and like you say, you never stop learning. But I think I can see it needs to be more about breaking you out of maybe a bit of a mental block of just to feel like there's always another progression to sort of go to. But so MI, you're now in the sort of hotbed, I guess, of 20 years ago, LA probably still feels like it's in its absolute heyday in terms of the music that was coming out of there. So what was it just a land of opportunity at that point in terms of finding
100%. MI was like the sort of gateway for me into the business, really, because the people I met there, it's sort of a networking place, kind of, but it wasn't like I was necessarily trying. It just sort of happened that way. But there was this guy called Barry Squire, and he's like the guy that all the artists or management, they'll hire him to find bands, to find players, and he just has kind of like an agent, but he's not. Like they hire him, cost us nothing. We're just on his roster, and so everybody gets to LA, and they're friggin', they used to. I don't know how it works anymore, but it used to be. Do you know Barry Squire? Do you know Barry Squire? Do you know Barry Squire? And I was hanging out with my buddy Dory Lobel, and he fills in for me on The Voice, and he does a lot of gigs with a lot of artists. He's an unbelievable guitar player, and really close friend. And we were just hanging out in my shitty little apartment, and we were just playing guitar, and Barry called him, and so he, Dory, being the mensch that he is and the awesome guy that he is, he was like, "Hey, well, I'm sitting here with my buddy Justin." He called Dory for an audition. He goes, "I'm sitting here with my buddy Justin, and he's a great guitar player too. He should come audition as well." And he was like, "Sure, bring him. Like the more the merrier, because it's a big cattle call with Barry." And this audition was for The Calling, and I got the gig. And this was like a few weeks before I graduated MI.
Yeah.
And so, and it was a big world tour. I didn't even have a passport. Like, I'd never been out of the country.
How old are you at this point?
I was, like 22 maybe, 21. I was old enough to drink.
Yeah.
In the States. So.
And how old would the Calling have?
We're all about the same age.
About the same age.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think Alex might have been 23 or 24, and I think Aaron might have been 25, 26.
So it's like a label trying to put a band together to take this thing on tour. Is it just?
Yeah.
What was it? Well, no. I was going to say, do you think even at that point, do you think there was they were looking perhaps for a certain look and a style and something to complement the rest of the band?
Oh yeah. So that was the running joke, and. Excuse me, my stomach's growling. In LA, the running joke was you know, you wouldn't say good luck, you know, to go on an audition and be like, hey man, make sure you wear the right t-shirt. Or,
Right.
you know what I mean? It was kind of, that's part of it.
Yep.
Like, let's be real about it. I mean, part of it's the playing,
Yep.
part of it's the personality, and then part of it's how you know, do you look, you know. But my little brother, he's a drummer, awesome drummer. And he went and auditioned for Katy Perry before she broke. And he looked really young. He was young, but he looked really young. And they liked him. They really liked his playing. Their only comment was, he's too young.
Right.
Or he looks too young.
Yeah.
Which I thought was silly. But it is what it is. But
okay, so you get the calling gig. If you, it's the, you know, once you hum the song of it was a huge hit. So what kind of stuff were you?
I don't even remember how to play it. It was. I can't. I think that's the part was.
Every single person watching that is like,
It was a huge hit,
massive hit.
And so like that song had already come out. I wasn't in the band when they launched that song, but I was in the band after that record. But they were still riding that wave, and we toured for, I don't know, about a year and a half, 2 years or so.
What would they have been doing? Theaters or
we were doing,
arenas,
yeah,
or?
we did some like arenas. It was mostly theaters, and some clubs. We did Party in the Park, you know, we do some big festivals and stuff like that. But I'd never been outside of Europe. Outside of the US. I'd never been to Europe. I've never been to the UK. We went to Japan, we went to Korea, Brazil. They were massive in Brazil. And man, like...
What did you learn the most about, you know, because you're going from, I assume, playing in a band where you're carrying your own gear in and doing your own sound, and I don't even know what, you know, to the next thing, you presumably it's a full-scale tour, 10,000 people. What did you learn the most, you think, during that sort of 18 months or so?
Well, you know, I'm thinking about it now. What did I learn the most? We all kind of grew up together, I guess. I don't know. Like, what did I learn the most? That's a good question. We mostly partied and had a lot of girls. I learned that I need to wear that's the truth. No, we I mean, put it on there if you want. It's true. The oldest guy in charge was about 28.
Right.
And we were all on a bus. But what I learned, I guess, is on the other side of it, I came out much more of a mature person. Traveling the world, you know, eating different foods, being in different cultures, seeing the world in a different way. It gave me a different perspective on the world. You know, I was more open to you know, different cultures and different things.
In terms of I mean, I've got to just say on that point, I think you've simultaneously just saved the guitar industry. As that was not the answer I was expecting, but I suspect every teenage boy is kind of secretly hoping that is what happens when he learns to play the guitar. But what I always think to myself, you know, that it's a different stagecraft, isn't it? Going from playing to 150 people to playing 10,000 people.
It was amazing. It was unbelievable. And you know, when it happened, I was like, holy shit. Whoa, we're like rock stars. This is really happening. And then the other side to it is when it all ended, because the band broke up and then it ended. And then it was like, oh, shit, it's over? Like, what now?
Right.
Like, now I got to go find another gig, or what am I going to do now? Like, after having an experience like that, traveling the world and partying and playing for all these people, and like, it was like devastating when it ended. Like, really sad. But you got to pick up, you got to keep going, you know. And I would bounce around from one gig to the next, and I played with this girl, Vivi Brown. She's from the UK, and she was awesome. Then I played with Bonnie McKee. She's like a songwriter, you know. She was, you know, a new artist at the time, and then I started playing with Robin Thicke, and I was with Robin for, I don't know, a good year and a half or so. And when I started playing with him, the record was...
That was the big record, was it?
The evolution of Robin Thicke. It didn't have that...
What was the gigantic Robin Thicke, the Pharrell Williams?
Oh, no.
Not that. Was that after? Or
that was after.
That was after.
That was after
right.
they got sued and the whole
Yes.
thing. So that happened after I was there. I was long gone by that point.
Right.
But when I started playing with Robin, the record was done. You know, he put this band together, and you know, we were rehearsing, and then all of a sudden Robin got really inspired, and so we co-wrote some things with him, finished the rest of the record with him, and you know, that was a cool experience as well. But you know, and Robin's amazing, super talented dude, really nice, sweetheart of a guy. But I just felt like it wasn't my type of music, you know. His music is awesome, but it just wasn't my thing. I wanted to be a bit more rocky and edgier and stuff. And so, I don't know, I kind of found myself looking for a way out of that. And, you know, I do some auditions here and there, and nothing really ever panned out. Like, I auditioned for the Goo Goo Dolls, and
cool.
I didn't get that, but they were really fun. They're really nice guys. And then I get a call from Paul Merkovich, who's the musical director for Pink and The Voice. And so Paul called me up and asked me to come. He's like, hey, I got this artist I'm working with. You know, I think she's a really cool artist. I think you'd be great for this. And I went and I was like, yeah, sure. And then I found out it was Pink.
She was big already, wasn't she?
She was very big, yeah. She had a couple records out, so she was pretty big already.
Yeah.
And although, you know, it's funny, she was big already, but when I started playing with her, we were in America, we were doing clubs.
Really?
Yeah. And then we'd come to Europe, we were doing arenas. In Australia, we were doing arenas. But in America, it took her like a while to really get to the level that we've got to now, right? Now we're doing stadiums.
Yeah.
In America, you know, which is I'm so grateful and happy to be a part of that journey. You know, going from the clubs, even if she was a household name, big artist at the time, going from clubs to now doing stadiums, it's like, holy shit, man. It's like, I feel like we really accomplished something amazing, you know? But yeah, so Paul called me to audition, and I went and auditioned, I got the gig, and it was literally a frigging life-changing moment for me. Literally changed my life. Because through this, I met my wife.
Yeah.
And now I have a beautiful daughter, and I've got a family, my family and my touring family, and it's just been incredible, you know.
You tour relentlessly, you know. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how Pink finds the time to ever write anything, as she just seems to be, you know, just like gigging and touring, and I have to say again, I've kind of, my whole perception of Pink changed that day when I saw her, and it's just like I get it now.
She's the real deal.
I would say to anybody, if you get the chance to see the show, it's kind of, you know, buy a ticket, because it's
a life-changing experience in its own.
I honestly, you know, I would honestly put it in the same bracket of, you know, I remember seeing, I got the same kind of thing with artists like, whether it would be Madonna or Michael Jackson or Prince or whatever like that, where you just went, the live show, it almost doesn't matter whether you like the records or not, because the live show is just so spectacular.
It's an experience.
That you almost walk away blown away. And I was lucky enough to see the Pink thing when that whole sort of, almost that sort of Cirque du Soleil kind of acrobatic thing kind of first out. And it's just, it's a whole nother level. But I mean, that was how many, 17 years ago, did you say you've been doing the...
Yeah, 2006, yeah, it was like 17 years ago.
I mean,
and it's...
I mean, I don't even really know what... There must be so many experiences of that last 17 years to sort of talk about.
But, so many, yeah.
I mean, but I suppose When you joined the band, did you have any idea that you'd be such an integral part of the live show?
No.
Or were you sort of thinking, I might be the guy that stands at the back and, you know, maybe gets one guitar solo in a gig or something?
No, I knew... When we first shook hands, right, there was some connection that me and her have. Mm-hmm. That I knew we were going to be friends regardless, you know? Like, it felt like we knew each other right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there was really an instant, like, warmth and love there, you know? You know, I knew my role was going to be a big part because there's actually a lot of guitar in that stuff. And she likes to be raw and vulnerable, so there's a lot of acoustic stuff and you know, very sort of exposed moments, you know? And so... But I didn't. It just organically turned into what it turned into, and I had no idea it was going to be what it was going to be. But I was up for whatever it was going to be. You know, I was up for, all right, you're coming over here, let's party. Like, you want me to rip? Okay. I remember asking her too. I was like, you know, when I first started, I was like, oh, you know, do you want me to play like the solo like it is on the record, or she's like, no, you be you.
Right.
You know, do you. And by doing me, the same thing with the rest of the band and her, like it's like it is a real band, you know. Like, we've all been doing this for a long ass time, and we are individuals up there collectively doing this amazing thing, you know.
Has the core of the band stayed much the same for those 17
pretty much
years?
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And quite unusual as well, I think. There's not many big rock acts that will rock and pop acts that will just keep the same band.
Same band, yeah. I mean, we have a new drummer, a couple new singers that we've added the singers. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for the most part, it's been the same band for this entire time.
How do you balance because your other job, of course, for the last 12 odd years has been the resident guitar player on The Voice.
The Voice, yeah.
USA.
Yeah.
Which I think, you know, takes the sort of the, what's the right word? The challenge as a guitar player to produce the amount of content that you need to produce for The Voice.
It's insane.
In the short space of time it's like a
it's
world away from what the Pink thing is, a different set of challenges, right?
It's a different set of challenges. It's a different mindset. Mm-hmm.
Tell the guys how many, you said to me in the car, how many songs that you might have to learn for a typical week.
Yeah, I mean, well, we typically will do 15, we'll learn 15 songs a night, and we'll get through about 150 songs roughly in 2 weeks, or, you know, whatever. We've even done more, you know. We've recorded over, I think it's something like, I don't want to get this wrong, but it's we've recorded, I know we've done probably over 6,000 songs. We've recorded over 4,000 songs. And in the course of 12 years, you know.
And even if you know the song, it doesn't massively help for The Voice because they want a 90-second version of it, right?
So they cut it up and they make it feel like you get the full song in 90 seconds. And so maybe it's a song you've been playing your whole life, and then it's this weird version of it. So then you got to learn that, and then, or maybe you've learned the song but you never really played it right. Yeah. And then you actually like put a real ear on it, and you're like, oh shit, that's what they're actually playing. And that's kind of a cool, fun part of it. Like, learning some of the stuff, I've learned a lot of really cool shit. And it's made me grow as a musician as well, because there's a lot of different styles of music that I would have never have played, and had to kind of really sort of zone in on a little bit. But it's a lot. It's a lot, you know. And very quickly, so we'll learn the songs, we'll learn it as is, just like the record, and then the contestant will come in and they'll be like, oh, I want to do it a tritone away. And you're like, shit, man, it was just an E minor, it was really the best key ever, and now it's like fucking B flat, or, you know, whatever. And so that happens, and then they'll want to do a completely different arrangement, you know, like they want to do a spooky version of this song, or a slowed down. There's always a slowed down version. It's always like, I want to break it down, I want to slow it down, I want to break it down, I want to slow it down. We never get, hey, can we play a little faster, like, you know, a little more. But But and it suits them. It's usually it's the right moves. Not always, but usually it's the right move to suit the folks. But yeah, man, it's been a crazy wild ride for sure.
I can't, and I guess again, on the one hand, you've got this super close friendship with the guys in Pink who are all top of their game, and then on the next thing you're being told by some contestant that's basically on like the second round of like, oh, I want to do it like this.
Yeah.
Is there, you must have to literally just go, count to 10, breathe, it's okay. I'll be back with Pink soon.
No comment. It can be frustrating at times. Let's be real. I mean, yes, it can be frustrating. And yeah, I mean, like, it can be challenging. The thing about that gig is the band is incredible.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Brothers. Great friggin' dudes. We have a really good time, and there's lots of really funny banter between all of us. But the thing about that show is their TV is hard, right? They're long days. Mm-hmm. They're grueling hours. When we go live, it's 7 days a week, 14-hour days. You're basically building a 2-hour show out of nothing in about 3 days. So there's just no time for anything, and it's just that's the tough part. But the rewarding part is watching the show back and seeing what we did.
Yeah.
In that short amount of time, you see what we did and how great it is and how hard everybody worked, and that's the rewarding part. And then on the other side of it, you come out on the end of it like, I don't feel like there's anything that'll rattle my cage as a musician because I've kind of done it already. Like we would go in on Fridays and record everything for the iTunes or for the streaming stuff, and we do 12 to 14 songs in a day, overdubs and all. Right? We're just cooking through all this material, and it's like at a high level, and so and all the changes being thrown at you, it's like, oh, it needs to be more of this, it needs to be more of that. Okay, well, how do you like this? You want me to do this? You want me to do that? Whatever. And but it turns on a side of your brain that's just that it's like, holy shit, I feel like a Superman right now, like but I'm also dead tired.
Well, look, we are going to take a small break. Then we're going to come back and talk about pedals and guitars and amps and how that's all evolved, and then talk about what future stuff might hold for you, and just so that I don't forget, if you've ever wondered what In the Air Tonight sounds like sung through a talk box and then with some ripping 3-minute guitar solo at the end of it, go and listen to Justin Derrico's pretty much one and only solo album that's out at the moment.
It's an oldie but a goodie.
2010. Yeah. But maybe we'll talk about what might be coming to follow that up soon. Anyway, be back in a minute.
This guitar sounds great.
That's a perfectly good intro back into where we're at now.
Oh, cool.
So, now let's do the gear thing. You are on the naughty step because you have stopped using valve amplifiers recently and gone over to the digital dark side.
I did.
But we are going to talk about that and why that decision was made.
I have a lot of feelings about it. I have a lot of feelings.
But let's start with guitars.
Mm-hmm.
I must admit, I can't recall. I have a vision of you in my head, just Les Paul all day long.
Yeah.
Have I got that wrong, or is that your one love, your true love?
It is. It is my true love. I love my Les Pauls. I freaking love them. Like I really do. It's just a guitar that speaks to me and speaks for me, and But
how many have you got?
How many Les Pauls?
Yeah.
I have a problem. At least 30. I have a major problem.
That is a problem. You see, Bernie Marsden, he put the Beast up for sale recently.
Did he?
So if you've got a spare $1 million, that could be yours.
I don't think I can afford that one, but I'd be happy to play it.
Tell us, come on then, what's the best Les Paul you've got, and why is it the best?
My best Les Paul is probably my Montrose. It's a 58 reissue, and it's a Ronnie Montrose. replica of his 58s custom
Right.
shop. It's awesome. It's got a great neck. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's got some girth, but it's good. And the pickups in it, I don't know if they're just particular to that guitar, but they're really bright for a Les Paul. You know, and especially like, you know, the neck. I like to go to the neck for solo stuff. You know, give it like a more creamy thing. I call it the shit filter. But it's kind of spanky, you know, and really clear. And it's just been a workhorse for me on Pink and the Voice. And it's just a very woody, organic sounding guitar, and it plays great.
Cool. 30 Les Pauls. I'm slightly jealous. So when might you want something else, and what have you got? Because I said, is that been pretty much from your, you know, going back to the Calling or even back at college? Were you
actually back then? I was more Strats, and I think back with the Calling, I even had a Yamaha. I can't remember the name of that guitar actually.
what, a Pacifica? Like
yeah, that's it.
One
That's
of
the
the
one.
Pacificas.
Yeah, that's a great guitar.
Yeah.
I don't think I own that guitar anymore actually, but. Yeah, so I was playing mostly Strats. I could never, when I was younger, I just couldn't afford a Les Paul. Not only that, where I grew up, it was very seldom you'd see a Gibson. It was mostly Fenders.
Really?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you weren't probably that million miles away from where they were all made.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. But in that, you know, the local music stores, they were Fender dealers. So like if you get a Les Paul, it'd be a used one. I don't know, like I rarely saw him, and maybe that was part of the attraction. And then my best friend Corey Britz, he's the bass player for Bush. We were in a band together in Giacomo, and I met him, you know, when I was in college, and he had this he still has it, and we always kind of fight over it, but he's got this amazing Les Paul. I think it's like a '96 Les Paul. It's got like a bird's eye maple top, sunburst, and he introduced me to the Les Paul, and then I picked that guitar up and played it, and it was like, holy shit! I've been missing this my whole life, you know, the dual humbuckers, and but you know, so I love my Les Paul. I love my Les Paul. You'll pretty mumuch mostly see me playing that 90% of the night, but I love Tellys.
Okay.
And so now I got these Shabbat guitars. They made two of them for me. This one is a regular scale length.
Yeah.
P90 humbucker, just to do something. I wanted to do something a little different. Then he also made me.
This is not a million miles off of what the very, very original Telly kind of headstock was.
That's where that comes from.
Is it
Snake?
Snake? Yeah.
They kind of reshaped it a little, streamlined it a little bit, but so they made me one full scale length, and then they made me another one that's a Gibson scale length and two humbuckers. So it's kind of, you know, And that guitar, both these guitars, but that guitar is amazing
because that's a very Gibson looking neck with the block inlays and the rosewood board. Is it a mahogany?
Yeah, it's mahogany.
Well?
Yeah, and body. So we did that. You know, they know. Those guys are extremely talented luthiers.
Yeah.
And it's only, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys in his shop, right? Their little operation. But they know I love Les Pauls, and so they're like, well, let's do that, like the Black Beauty kind of thing, and I think they had made one kind of pretty much like this, and they showed me a picture. I was like, oh yeah, that's the one. And so I was actually, funny enough, I was talking to Avi last night, and I think they're working on a gold top version of this is the Lion Deluxe, and he's going to do the Lion Special for me. So, and this is cool because like this is like the black and a little bit of the gold. So I was thinking of doing gold and a little black, like a mirror image of this guitar. So, anyways.
And you got a ton of Fender Tellys as well, or
yeah. Actually, you know, it's funny. I do have some really cool Tellys. Probably my favorite Telecaster is my Nash. Mm-hmm. I got a Nash Telly and a Nash Strat, and they're amazing. I've actually got a '57 Strat, a real one. Oof. And that guitar is incredible,
Right.
but it doesn't come out.
No.
Yeah, it stays
Too
at home. But I use it.
Too risky.
I use it on a lot of recordings, and it's amazing. You know.
I know that the Shabat thing. I don't think I'd ever heard of them before, and then. Pete came back from the NAMM show this year, so we were talking 3 or 4 months ago, and we were talking about what did you see that he said, I did see these Shabat guitars and they were just like another level. So it's interesting that you've bought one down as well. I need to go check them out a bit more.
They're awesome. They do a lot of different sort of, S style, T styles guitars, but man, the necks are so good. And I mean, they might correct me, but I feel like they're all hand shaped. And it's just super high quality. The other thing is it's a bolt-on, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought the one thing they told me that I thought was really interesting, each neck is made for that body.
So they carved the neck for the pocket of the body, or
that's
the other
why,
way
like,
around.
if you look closely, like it's so tight.
Yeah.
Right? It's so perfectly put in there, so you can't really just swap the necks, you know? It's because it's all specifically made for the guitar, and I think that's part of, I don't know, maybe that's one of the reasons why they're all so friggin', they're really
Have you
really
always
good,
been drawn to more, I suppose you said you had the Pacifica, but have you always been drawn to slightly more vintage guitars, or have you ever done the sort of Floyd Rose trip and had that kind of thing?
Oh, no, I'm into that.
You are into that as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've got like a Nash, I call it my Super Shred Master 8000. And I've got a couple Les Pauls with the Floyd, the Axis.
Really?
Yeah, and I love them.
Okay.
I love them, But yeah, I am drawn to,
That is a smart, it's funny, isn't it, how...
no tremolo, I mean, I love the wang bar and stuff, but it's like, I don't know, this stuff is just, it's more fun for me.
It's very cool. Okay, so cool guitars, and we've heard a little bit of you playing stuff. You're actually playing through my pedal board today into a 100-watt sort of Victory Sheriff amplifier. But I'm interested in, I'm guessing all of your gear is going to be on stage or in the back of a truck at the moment. But for years and years, you used Bogner amplifiers.
Yeah, and I still do.
Is it the Shiva or what?
Shiva, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Which is I suppose a hot-rodded Marshall kind of vibe.
Pretty
thing.
much, yeah. Epic amp. I love that amp.
Yeah, and
so much.
Was that some sort of, I don't know, were you a big fan of like Steve Lukather or who? I don't know what because I know he's
you know what? I the way I found a friend of mine when I first started playing with the Calling, a friend of mine was like helping me get my rig together, and so he knew the guys at Bogner, and so he took me over there, and they let me play through. I played through the Ecstasy and I played through the Shiva, and instantly I was like, the Shiva, like the Ecstasy was amazing, but for me, it had like a lot of knobs and stuff, which kind of scared me because I didn't know how to really set them, but the Shiva just spoke to me, and for 20 years I've been playing that same amp.
Yeah.
That same amp.
much of a pedal board. I mean,
yeah, my rig, my analog rig, it's a tall rack, and I got a Friedman B100, and I use that mostly for the clean stuff. And then I've got the Bogner Shiva, and that's mostly my lead and dirty rhythm stuff. And then I got a couple drawers of pedals, and I got the Amp Heat switcher with the Mastermind, and basically a couple volumes and a wah.
I've always wanted. I think that's the ultimate for me anyway, is where you can actually have two different amplifiers for your clean and your dirty
it's
kind
the
of
best.
sound.
It's the best. Because the Shiva, like at least mine, the clean sound on it's awesome, but it breaks up a little too much for some things. For some things it's friggin' amazing, but especially for like the voice and stuff with Pink, I needed something super clean, and I had Dave mod that channel to have a lot more headroom, so it's a little more Fendery, than the normal BE100s.
It doesn't sound like there's tons of pedals though, in the sense of like, what are you using for?
Mostly Boss.
Really?
Yeah, for the most part. I've got an Eventide,
sort of delays and stuff like that. Or
I've got a DD500 for delays, and then I've got an OD3, which is by far one of the greatest pedals ever. Most versatile overdrive pedal. I got a tube
underrated
screamer.
then, because I don't think the OD3 doesn't get much of a look in very often. So.
It's one of the, bar none, best pedals ever.
To push a slightly driven amp already? Or?
Yeah, either to push it or clean amp. I mean, it works really well. I use it for like sort of low overdrive. I don't have a ton of gain on it. It's just kind of low overdrive, like sort of medium overdriven stuff. The tube screamer I've got set where the volume's cranked, but the gain is almost off, and I just use it as that thing, for when I'm pushing a driven amplifier already. Give it that little mid range, bump or whatever. And then I've got like a couple core, the Wazacraft Dimension C, CE2, the what's the full tone Deja Vibe.
Yeah.
And I've got the Chase Bliss. I can't think of the name of it now. The overdrive one with all the faders.
Yes,
yeah.
the
Mark II.
CXM? I can't remember. I know the one you mean, yeah.
But another great, amazing pedal.
And you use that live, do you?
Yeah.
Do you have that as part of some sort of MIDI switching
Yeah,
rig,
so it's like, it's all in the Mastermind, so it's all MIDI. It's all... they're all talking to each other, and so I've got different presets and stuff like that, even with the delays and stuff on the DD500. But, so that's been my rig for 20 years.
I know you're about to literally break my heart and tell me what you've changed it for, but before we do that, can we just hear, maybe, because we've not heard much of this guitar yet, and again, you've fallen in love with a fuzz pedal on my board, which I need to try and sort you out with.
Yes, but, this pedal's amazing.
Yeah, so just...
So here, and then we'll put that's just the amp, right? Right? That's the neck, right? This super sweet sound. Then you got the... Right, that's the that's like the rock and roll thing, right? And then here's the fuzz, which
so the far right one is a boost, so you might want to take that off before you use the fuzz.
Okay, so here's the fuzz. Right?
You've got octave on is the left hand.
Which is awesome, right? Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then here we go to super awesome. Fucking sounds awesome. That's so much fun. And then you get the wah going. It's too much fun. So much fun.
I feel like I have to apologise to my pedal board for saying the next time somebody plays through you, it ain't going to sound like that. So the fuzz there is, we'll give a shout out, congratulations Daniel at Fjord Fuzz, the Odin, which you gave me a couple of years ago.
That's what it's called, the Odin?
The Odin. It's a killer fuzz pedal. Yeah.
Cool, I love that.
I will see if we've got one here, and we will gift you that.
I greatly appreciate that.
It's a very cool pedal. I'm sure.
That's something
Daniel
I don't think I've ever come across,
it.
unless you know.
No, it's very cool. I really like that pedal. I'm pretty sure the Odin is still made. And what I liked about it is the knob on the bottom left controls the octave. So you can dial it back a bit if you don't want it necessarily to be that full kind of crazy octave.
Oh, I just like everything on. Friggin' give me everything you got.
So look. 20 years of being a diehard Valve head fan, 4x12 cabinets, everything like that. What happened? What disaster,
I don't know.
what happened to... No, I'm being
No, I'll tell
being
you.
serious here, because I get it. You're a touring guy. There's a lot to go wrong with a Valve amp and a pedal board and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot for a guitar tech to try and support every night, plugging it all in, getting it sounding good for you. So what did tell me what happened, and what was the point at which you just go, I just need to move on?
Yeah, well, I was when I first got into the fractal thing, I thought, okay, because there's a lot of, especially on this new record, there's a lot of sounds that it's hard to get it out of an analog rig, right? And she was pretty specific that she wanted it to be as much like the record as possible. So I figured, okay, I'll get the fractal and I'll, maybe I'll do the 4-cable method, or maybe I'll do it and I'll put it in the switcher and, and try to run it that way. And as I kind of got familiar with it and the way it works and everything, I didn't fully understand what I was getting myself into. And it wasn't as simple. Obviously you could do anything you want these days with guitar rigs and stuff. But we were kind of running out of time. It wasn't that simple of a process. What I wanted to do initially, it was kind of a hybrid thing. But it just ended up becoming something too monstrous. Like, it was too big, it was too much, and too many things to go wrong. And essentially, which led me to the decision to go full fractal, right? And which is really hard because I feel like I've been breaking up with my rig for like the last several months. I'm sore about it, but look, I still will use that rig for sure.
The Shiva
but on this
text
tour,
you every so often.
Yeah,
send you dirty pictures of it saying, "Look what you're missing."
Yeah. No, listen, I love that amp with every fiber I have because it sounds amazing, and it's part of my identity as a guitar player. I think it's part of my sound, but. In previous tours, we've run into a lot of issues, like we're running off generators and, there's a horrific ground hum coming through your rig that you just can't get rid of, or all the connections, something goes out and the whole rig goes out. And I've had a lot of problems, or the friggin' rack tips over and shit just gets destroyed, or the something goes wrong in the amp and there's like hardly anybody here to fix it. We're in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, we have spares and stuff, but again, it doesn't sound the same as that head, right? Yeah. It's very specific. And then it's just kind of a bummer, and it kind of put me in a funk in going into the show, which I just don't want to do. I just want to go and do the show, give you the best I got, and which led me to this. And it was just a matter of consistency. For one, it sounds the same every night. Two, I got in there with Cooper Carter. He came in and helped me. We basically A-B'd my rig and dialed in my tones to as close as you possibly can. And it sounds awesome. And the only difference is, which is kind of, I see this as a plus, is I was running everything in mono, and now we're running everything in stereo, which is amazing for like all the reverbs and delays and stuff, So and in the ears, it just sounds so good, and it's consistent.
I'm going to text you after Saturday night's show and go, preferred the sound of your Bogner show. I'm just going to do it just to annoy you.
Don't do it. It's such a sensitive subject.
I could tell. No, I think what you've done with the Fractal is the only way to approach this kind of kit, which is to get under the hood and accept that you've got to spend. Well, you said you spent weeks. I was going to say hours, but maybe it is weeks. And for me, and that's what we were laughing about in the car, I've plugged you into an amp you've never played before, into a pedal board you've never played before,
and it sounds
and
epic.
you've just gone, hey, there's a sound.
I didn't even touch a knob.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, that's what always draws me back to this kind of gear.
100%.
But I fully concede that, if I was doing the kind of gigs you were doing, even doing gigs the fraction of the size that you were doing,
sure.
There's no real downside to. There's only upsides going down the kind of the digital route.
Look, I will always forever be that guy, right? I will always sort of side with that. But this stuff sounds amazing, and like I don't feel like I've lost. I feel like if anything I've gained, because it's with all the options you do have. And I have run into things where she'll be like, oh, I don't like that sound, and it's like I just go over, get on the computer, boom, and it's like options galore.
Is that? I mean, I don't like that sound. You literally, I'll just plug my laptop into this thing and it's just like I couldn't do that. I'd just be like, what do you want? Less treble or more bass? They're your only two options.
Yeah, it's true. You're right, man. Look, you're 100% right. But it's actually really awesome to have all those options. And like you said, like you spend the time on it and get it dialed to where you like it. And the other thing is, like with that unit, like all the presets, they have a ton of presets already in there that are great already to begin with. But if you want more of a custom thing and you get underneath the hood, like you said, and just really dive in, it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish tone shaping wise. It's kind of insane.
Now you watched the video that we did recently, and admittedly we didn't have the fractal in the mix, but we had the Kemper, the Tonex, the QC, and the Prime from Headrush, and the real amps. Mm-hmm. And
did I tell you my favorites?
No, well, so Pete didn't guess the real amp on any of them, and I got the real amp, I think, on the clean sound, but I didn't. Or which one way around? I got one real amp and one not. And I couldn't. But you said you were pretty confident that you did guess the right amp.
I didn't guess the right.
Okay.
My favorite was the real amp.
Okay.
The one that I thought was the real amp was the Cortex.
Right.
Was the Quad Cortex. So for some reason I thought that was the real amp, but the real amp was my favorite sound out of all of them. So that does it. Just there is like, and I couldn't tell tell what was real. I just know what I liked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so
we couldn't tell. I think in the past when we've done those, there's a feel tell, or there's something,
sometimes it's obvious.
Yeah, but what we weren't doing is we were using the reverb from Logic, so it was the same reverb on all four amps, because that's the other tell, isn't it? Some effects brands do reverb better than other brands, all that kind of stuff. But and so I get it, but you're still running that. You said not just you, but Pink also wants guitar cabs on stage.
Yeah, I got my Wagner cabs. I got two 412 Wagner cabs on stage.
And what are you powering those?
A Matrix power amp.
Oh wow! So you got plenty of volume on stage.
Yeah. It's still crushing on stage, and through the cabs, it's like it sounds okay, like. Because you're not using the cabinet simulation through the cabs. So, and those cabs are loaded with V30s. They're not full range speakers. Mm-hmm. So like, obviously it sounds way better with the full range speakers with the fractal stuff. Mm-hmm. But the cabinets on stage are really more for stage volume, air, and getting some feedback, right? Nobody's really hearing those out front. You're hearing that, it's just going direct to front of house.
Well, I forgive you. I'm just saying.
I know I'm going to catch so much shit.
No, I don't think you will.
But you know what? I think at the end of the day, it works for me right now. And again, I think moving forward too, because I did kind of run out of time. I think I'm going to investigate the whole hybrid thing as well, because I think that's also a really kind of cool meet in the middle. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm conscious of the time. But I did want to talk about the future, because I was really surprised about. I thought maybe there'd have been more sort of Justin Derrico kind of solo stuff.
Sure.
And if you is it Once Upon a Time? Was that what was the album?
Oh, Boldly Going Nowhere.
So you can find
Once Upon a Time, I was boldly going nowhere.
It's there, and it's a killer kind of virtuoso guitar kind of track.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But I thought there'd be more.
Sure.
But I guess you just haven't had the time, right? But you were saying that when there is some space in your schedule to do something. So tell us a little bit about if we're allowed to talk about it.
Well, it's kind of a bit of a secret, but at the end of the year, I'm gonna work with a very close friend of mine, and we're gonna put out an epic instrumental record. We've already written a lot of songs for it already. We're still hashing out some stuff, and we'll both have the time at the end of the year, and we are going to put out a kick-ass record. And that's all I can really say about it now.
I won't give anything away.
And I'm really looking forward to it. And part of the thing is if you if you look back historically, my last record, it was fucking, 13 years ago? Mm-hmm. In that 13 years, I've been doing The Voice and Pink. So I haven't had... And I mainly blame the voice for this because I haven't had the time or nor the headspace, really. Yeah. I mean, I've been creative and writing and stuff, and I do a lot of stuff with jam tracks, with JTC.
Yes, yep.
And that's a good outlet for me, too, because, I get to do all the instrumental stuff and be a part of that family, and, it's just an amazing thing to be a part of, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and I do have a new JTC masterclass coming out soon. I just filmed it with those guys a couple weeks ago, so that'll be out soon. I don't know when, but you can find me on Instagram for that. But I just hadn't had the time, and when I had the time off from either one, I didn't want to do anything. I just want to be with my family, and or just sit in my studio and noodle. I just don't want to,
watch Andertons videos. Just
exactly, on repeat.
Hours and hours.
No, man, so anyways, but yes, I have been writing a bunch and some really crazy wild stuff. So it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, Justin let me into a little secret as what was inspiring it, and all I can say is, all you Bossa Nova Barry Manilow fans out there, you're gonna love this. Probably won't be. Well, look, man. It's been a pleasure. We could go on for hours.
Well, yeah,
so
I'm having a blast,
if the new album does come out and you happen to be in the UK doing something else, again, come back in and we'll talk again. But it's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah,
what was that? We missed one.
Yeah.
Loved seeing the guitars, hearing about your story and everything like that. Can't wait to see the show. But yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Everyone, round of applause.
Pleasure.
Justin
Thank you.
Derrico.